You mentioned startup. What do you think it takes to build a successful startup?
Yeah, that it's what Luís was saying, that you need to be able to endure being stuck, and I think the best way to put it is that startups don't have a linear reward function, right? You oftentimes don't get rewarded for effort, and in most of our lives we go through these processes that do give you those small rewards for effort, right? In school, you study hard. Generally, you'll get a good grade, and then you get like good grades or you get grades every semester, and so you're slowly getting rewarded and pushed in the right direction. For startups, and startups are not the only thing that is like this, but for startups, it's you can put in a ton of effort into something that and then get no reward for it, right? It's like Sisyphus boulder, where you were pushing that boulder up the mountain, and you get to the top, and then it just rolls all the way back down. And so that's something that I think a lot of people are not equipped to deal with, and can be incredibly demoralizing, especially if that happens more than a few times. And so, but I think it's absolutely essential to power through it, because by the nature of startups, it's oftentimes you're dealing with non-obvious ideas and things that might be contrarian, and so you're gonna run into that a lot. You're gonna do things that are not gonna work out, and you need to be prepared to deal with that. But we're not coming out of college. You're just not equipped.
I'm not sure if there's a way to train people to deal with those non-linear reward functions, but it's definitely, I think, one of the most difficult things to about doing a startup. And also happens in research sometimes. We're talking about the default state is being stuck. You just you don't, like, you try things, you get zero results, you close doors, you constantly closing doors until you find something. And that is a big thing.
What about sort of this point when you're stuck? There's a kind of decision whether if you have a vision to persist through with this direction that you've been going along, or what a lot of startups do or businesses is pivot.
Mm-hmm.
How do you decide whether to give up on a particular flavor of the way you've imagined the design, and to adjust it or completely alter it?
I think that's a core question for startups that I've asked myself exactly. And I've never been able to come up with a great framework to make those decisions. I think that's really at the core of out of a lot of the toughest questions that people that started a company have to deal with.
I think maybe the best framework that I was able to figure out is when you run out of ideas. You just, you're exploring something, it's not working, you try it in a different angle, you try a different business model.
Yeah.
When you run out of ideas, you don't have any more cards, just switch. And it's not perfect because you have a lot of stories of startups with people kept pushing, and then that paid off. And then you have philosophies there's fail fast and pivot fast. So it's hard to balance these two worlds and understand what is the best framework.
And I mean, if you look at Fermat's library, maybe you can correct me, but it feels like you're operating in a space where there's a lot of things that are broken, and they or could be significantly improved. So it feels like there's a lot of possibilities for pivoting. Or how do you revolutionize science? How do you revolutionize the aggregation, the annotation, the commenting, the community around information, of knowledge, structured knowledge? I mean, that's kind of what Stack Overflow and Stack Exchange has struggled with to come up with a solution. And they've come up, I think, with an interesting set of solutions that are also, I think, flawed in some ways, but they're much, much better than the alternatives. But there's a lot of other possibilities. If we just look at papers, as we talked about, there's so many possible revolutions, and there a lot of money to be potentially made in those revolutions. Plus, coupled with that, the benefit to humanity. And so, you're sitting there, I don't know how many people are legitimately from a business perspective, playing with these ideas? It feels like there's a lot of ideas here.
True, there is.
Are you right now grinding in a particular direction? Like, is there like a 5-year vision that you're thinking in your mind?
For us, it's more like a 20-year vision, in the sense that we've consciously tried to make the decision of. So we run Fermat as it's a side project, and it's a side project in the sense like it's not what we're working on full time, and but our thesis there is that we actually think that that's a good thing, at least for this stage of Fermat's library, and also because some of these projects, if you're coming from a startup framework, you probably try to fit every single idea into something that can change the world within 3 to 5 years. And there's just some problems that take longer than that, right? And so, we were talking about archive, and I'm very doubtful that you could grow like archive into what it is today, like within 2 or 3 years. No matter how much money you throw at it, there's just some things that can take longer, but you need to be able to power through the time that it takes. But if you look at it as okay, this is a company, this is a startup, we have to grow fast, we have to raise money, then sometimes you might forego those ideas because of that, because they don't very well fit into the typical startup framework. And so for us, Fermat, it's something that we're okay with growing, with having it grow slowly and maybe taking many years, and that's why we think it's not a bad thing that it is a side project, because it makes it much more acceptable in a way, and that to be able to be okay with that.
That said, I think what happens is if you keep pushing new little features, new little ideas, I feel like there's like certain ideas will just become viral. Like, and then you just won't be able to help yourself, but it'll revolutionize things. Like, it feels like there but there's opportunity for viral ideas to change science.
Absolutely.
And maybe we don't know what those are yet. It might be a very small kind of thing.
Maybe you don't even know should this be a for-profit company doing this.
That's the Wikipedia question.
Yeah. There are a lot of questions, like really fundamental questions about this space that we've talked about.
I mean, you take Wikipedia and you try to run it as a startup, and by now it would have a paywall. You'd be paying $9.99 a month to read more than 20 articles.
I mean, that's one view.
Yeah.
The other, the ad-driven model. So they rejected the ad-driven model. I don't know if I mean, this is a difficult question. If archive was supported by ads. I don't know if that's bad for archive. If Fermat's library was supported by ads, I don't know. It's not trivial to me. Unlike I think a lot of people, I'm not against advertisements. I think ads, when done well, are really good. I think the problem with Facebook and all the social networks are the lack of transparency around the way they use data, and the lack of control the users have over their data. Not the fact that data is being collected and used to sell advertisements. It's the lack of transparency, lack of control. If you do a good job of that, I feel like it's really nice way to make stuff free.
Yeah,
for people.
It's like Stack Overflow, right?
Yeah, Stack Overflow.
I think they've done a good job with that. Even though, as we said, like they're capturing very little of the value that they're putting out there, right? But it makes it a sustainable company, and they're providing a lot of. It's a fantastic and very productive community.